Welcome to the TOEFL mock speaking exam. If you would like to try the exam for yourself and get personalized feedback on how to improve your TOEFL speaking, go over to Vtalk and try the exam. Using AI, we correct your mistakes and help you improve. In addition, you can also try our interactive lessons with our AI tutor. Make sure to stay until the end of the video and see the sample responses that show what a good answer looks like.
In this question, you will be asked to give your opinion about a familiar topic. After you hear the question, you will have 15 seconds to prepare your response and 45 seconds to speak. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Your friends are the most important influence in your life. Use details and examples to explain your opinion.
Please prepare your answer after the beep. Please begin speaking after the beep.
In this question, you will read a short passage about a campus situation and then listen to a talk on the same topic. You will then answer a question using information from both the reading passage and the talk. After the question, you will have 30 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak. Read the article from a student newspaper about a new plan announced by the university. You will have 45 seconds to read the article. Begin reading now. Now listen to two students discussing the announcement.
Did you read about the new plan?
Yeah. What do you think?
I think it's a great idea.
Really? Why?
Well, I just don't think the newspaper gives the most up-to-date information about activities.
Well, the paper comes out weekly. What's the problem?
The fact that it comes out just once a week is the problem. I read the paper every Monday, but then I forget that they're having a concert or showing a film or whatever, like on Thursday or Friday. And this'll always give me a reminder on the day of the event.
Yeah, that way you wouldn't forget.
And, like, if something gets canceled at the last minute, well, that way you'd know, and you wouldn't waste time showing up and no one's there.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. That would be really helpful. But do you think students are actually going to read the email?
Are you kidding? Everyone checks their email at least once a day. And if maybe they also include the cafeteria menu for the day in the email, well, then people are definitely going to read it.
You're so right. I can't wait until they start.
The woman expresses her opinion about the university's plan. Briefly summarize the plan, then state her opinion about the plan and explain the reasons she gives for holding that opinion.
Please prepare your answer after the beep. Please begin speaking after the beep.
Not only can you use Vtalk to practice for the TOEFL speaking exam, but you can also use it to improve your English speaking skills with our interactive TOEFL grammar and vocabulary lessons. Our AI tutor, Vicky, will walk you through grammar and vocabulary for the exam step by step.
In this question, you will read a short passage on an academic subject and then listen to a talk on the same topic. You will then answer a question using information from both the reading passage and the talk. After the question, you will have 30 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak. Read the article from a student newspaper about a new plan announced by the university. You will have 45 seconds to read the article. Begin reading now. Now listen to part of a lecture in an education class.
So, I used to teach a class of 8-year-olds, and one problem I sometimes had was getting the kids to raise their hands when they wanted to answer a question. Like lots of teachers, I had the rule that if a student wanted to answer a question, they needed to raise their hand in the air and wait till I called their name before speaking. That gave all the students a chance to participate, which helped everyone get more out of the discussion. But some kids had trouble following the rule. I remember there was one girl, Sarah, who didn't raise her hand when she wanted to answer a question. She would just call out the answer. And this was frustrating for the other children who were waiting patiently with their hands raised. So one day when Sarah called out, I asked her if she knew that calling out was unfair to the other students. I said to her, Sarah, do you realize that when you call out answers without raising your hand, you're not being fair to the other students? You're not giving them a chance to answer questions, too. And I didn't wait for her to answer. I just continued teaching the class. And after that, any time I asked the class a question, Sarah didn't call out the answer. She raised her hand along with everyone else.
Explain how the example from the lecture illustrates the technique of questioning awareness of effect.
Please prepare your answer after the beep. Please begin speaking after the beep.
In this question, you will listen to a short lecture. You will then be asked to summarize important information from the lecture. After you hear the question, you will have 20 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak. Listen to a part of a lecture from a history class. The professor is talking about the Industrial Revolution.
Back in the 18th century, in a time known as the Industrial Revolution, some countries, well, England in particular, started using new technology, like steam-powered machines, to produce goods. And the use of these machines brought about some significant changes. Let's go over two main changes that occurred. One change was that the center of production moved from homes to factories. Let's take fabric or cloth as an example. Historically, for a very long time, people had made cloth by hand in their homes, earning a little money from their home-based cloth production. But then these new steam-powered machines for weaving cloth were invented and placed in factories, and these machines could weave cloth much more quickly and efficiently. So there wasn't any reason to keep making cloth slowly in homes when it could be made faster on factory machines. Thus, the majority of cloth production shifted from home-based businesses to factory production. Another result of the new technology is that cities started forming around factories. Like, let's say there was a cloth factory that was built in a certain small village. Now, of course, the factory needed workers to operate the machines used in cloth production. So the factory would hire a lot of rural workers who would then move from the countryside to the village. So instead of being spread out all over the countryside, the workers started to congregate in the village with the factory. As a result, the village got bigger and eventually grew into a city.
Using points and examples from the talk, describe two changes that occurred after machines began to be used for manufacturing goods.
Please prepare your answer after the beep. Please begin speaking after the beep.
I really believe that my friends are the most important influence in my life, and that's because of some personal experiences that I had. So, when I was in high school, I had a friend who was a polyglot, and she also liked K-pop a lot. On the other hand, I just spoke my native language, which is Portuguese, and I wasn't very into K-pop. But through time, she taught me some basics of the languages she spoke, and because of her, I developed a huge passion for learning languages and I started to learn English and Italian. Also, I started to listen to K pop, so that's why I think so.
I disagree with the idea that my friends are the most important influence in my life, and I feel this way for several reasons. To begin with, I do not spend the majority of my time with my friends since I study at a university and I have to do a lot of important things such as preparing for the exams and studying in general. And secondly, I believe that only parents have made the greatest impact on my character and opinions since they have raised me. And this is why I believe that my friends are not the most important influence in my life.
The announcement talks about a change that will happen in the university campus, which is that before the events and activities in the university were announced through the newspaper once a week, and now they want it to be announced daily in an email. And the woman agrees with it. She actually thinks it's a great idea because of two reasons. First reason, she says that the newspaper is actually not up to date. And that means that if the newspaper is announced only once a week, you might forget about the events through the rest of the days. And also, if an event is canceled, you won't know it. And the second reason is that everyone checks their email at least once a day. And if they include the cafeteria menu, so everyone's gonna read it. And that's why the woman agrees with the announcement.
According to the announcement, the university will start sending all students daily emails containing information about important campus events. The woman supports this change for several reasons. First of all, she mentions that a newspaper doesn't provide the students with all necessary information. She also says that since a newspaper comes out just once a week, every Monday, a lot of students forget about important events by the end of the week. She also notices that if something gets cancelled, a lot of students will know about it thanks to an email reminder because every student checks their email at least once a day. And she also adds that it would be great if the university staff also included cafeteria menu in the daily emails.
According to the reading passage, questioning awareness of affect is when a student is being disruptive in class and the teacher asks a question that draws this negative behavior so it can be corrected. The professor gives an example to illustrate this technique. He used to teach 8-year-old kids, but there was a problem because he wanted the kids to raise their hands before they answer a question. However, there were students that didn't do it, and he gives an example of Sarah. Sarah used to call out the answer and didn't raise her hand, so he used this technique with her. He asked her like, "Hey, do you know that's unfair? And by doing this, you don't give other students the opportunity to speak." He didn't wait for her answer and just continued his class. Um, After that, she didn't do it again, so that's how he illustrates this technique.
The reading is about a phenomenon called question awareness of effect, and it states that there is a way to prevent students' disruptive behavior. The professor elaborates on this by providing an example when he used to teach a class of 8-year-olds. He says that there was a rule when someone wanted to answer a question, they had to raise their hand and wait till the teacher called their name. However, some people neglected this rule, such as a girl named Sarah, which just called out the right answer, and it really frustrated other students. However, one day the professor asked her if she knew that calling out the right answer was unfair toward other students, and he didn't wait her to answer, and he just continued teaching. After that moment, Sarah didn't call out the right answer, and she just raised her hand.
The lecture is about Industrial Revolution, more specifically about two changes that happened after machines began to be used for manufacturing goods. The professor gives two examples to illustrate this idea. First of all, she mentions that steam power machines changed the center of production. For example, clothes were made at home and by hand, and after the machines, it started to be made at the factories and much more efficiently. The second example is that cities started to be formed around factories. For instance, if a cloth factory is built in a small village, they will need to hire people, and those people will move from the countryside to the village. Suddenly, the village will become a city. And those are the two examples that the professor gives.
The lecturer explains the Industrial Revolution by providing two examples. First of all, she mentions that centers of production moved from houses to factories. Earlier, before the Industrial Revolution, all goods were made by hand at home, but when steam-powered machines were invented, they were placed inside of the factories and they were able to produce goods much faster than people at homes. And secondly, she notes that cities were beginning to form around factories, and she provides an example when a clothes factory was located in a small village, but this factory needed workers, and it hired workers from different parts of countryside, and eventually they moved to the village, and it got bigger and bigger, and eventually became a city.